Welcome to the 12th week of the In Times Like These recap. Now let's get into this. Starting with Quinlan Franklin, who visits her brother Zeke in jail after he got arrested for drug possession. She asks her brother if he's been selling drugs, which he denies, claiming that some mysterious person put them in his bag. It's hard for Quinlan to believe her younger brother, informing him that he can end up in prison like their mother did, questioning if that's what he wants for his future. Zeke advises his older sister to help, telling her that if he goes down for this, then she'll lose the only family that she has left. Devontae Torres checks up on his daughter Nichelle, who's been sick with worry over Zeke since she witnessed him get carried out of school in handcuffs. He wonders why his daughter cares so much after seeing Zeke get caught with drugs, but she tells him how she would still like to hear Zeke's side of the story. Adaku calls Devontae, demanding that he meet with her. Adaku asks Devontae if he had anything to do with Zeke getting arrested, telling him that with Zeke in jail, she loses money. Devontae denies any involvement, but Adaku warns him of consequences if she discovers that he's lying to her face. On Thanksgiving Day, Ulysses sees Nichelle wallowing over Zeke on the holiday, telling her older sister to get rid of the guy. But Nichelle tells Ulysses how that's her man and still wants to hear his side of things. Nichelle, who is still certain that Ulysses has an eating disorder, tells her younger sister not to pass up on meals or to rush out after eating dinner. When Ulysses tells Nichelle to mind her own business, Devontae and Isabel show up trying to keep the peace. Ulysses claims that she and Nichelle were going back and forth about their older brother Pacho not showing up to Thanksgiving. When Devontae encourages his daughters not to let their older brother ruin the holiday, Ulysses faints once again. When Ulysses comes through, she tells her family that she's fine, but Nichelle reveals to her parents how Ulysses fainted before and how she's certain Ulysses has an eating disorder. Ulysses is unable to convince her parents otherwise, going on about how she's been trying to be a glue to their fractured family, but Isabel assures Ulysses that's not her responsibility, comforting her youngest child. Max Russo is bailed out of jail and is met by his mother Heidi, venting about how embarrassed he was being arrested at school. Heidi assures Max that everything will be okay and that he won't end up in prison over Yvette Mitchell's lies. While Heidi is in her office wanting to meet with all of the assistant district attorneys to figure out which one of them is pressing charges against Max, one of the ADAs, Owen Grant, walks in, admitting that he was the one who pressed charges against her youngest son. This angers Heidi, but Owen tells Heidi that she's tripping since the case is too personal to her. Heidi warns Owen that his career is in jeopardy, but he claims that he's pressing charges against Max to get justice. Shelley and Raymond Derval take the stand while Udell Mitchell tries to make sure that the court doesn't see Jeremiah as a violent man. But Harley Drake tries to make Jeremiah seem like a man who couldn't control his temper. After the court proceedings are over, Vanessa calls to inform her family that JJ is nowhere to be found in the school, worrying the entire Dorval family. The Dorvals are sick with worry since JJ is still out there somewhere. Udell and Yvette show up at the estate, telling the Dorvals how JJ told her that he heard demons speaking with him, shocking the Dorvals. They're even more surprised when Raymond informs the family about a great aunt long ago who also heard about hearing demons and then disappeared. It's shown that JJ is in the woods with the voice telling him to stay gone. The Dorvals are in disbelief that JJ is still missing on Thanksgiving. Shelley fears that JJ might not be alive, but Jeremiah encourages his wife to think positive thoughts. While this is going on, JJ is very much alive, but the voice tells JJ to give up on life. Even though JJ is missing, Raymond tells Jeremiah and Shelley that they can still be thankful that God offered salvation through his son Jesus Christ, giving them the chance to tell God about their troubles and that God cares about their situation. Jeremiah gets a call from the police about JJ being found. At the police station, Finnegan informs Jeremiah and Shelley that someone who was walking their dog found JJ in the woods near the school. He goes on to tell them how he still doesn't know why Keeve wasn't allowed at the house. They don't give Finnegan an explanation as they spot JJ, who just doesn't make sense while he is talking, worrying Jeremiah and Shelley as they're unsure of how to handle their son's condition. Alan Russo calls the AI programmer to make more AI Elvira videos to send to Wanda to distract her in order to speed up the process of obtaining confidence designs. Alan is caught off guard when his father Isidore hears the entire conversation, asking Alan to speak to him in his room. Isidore is furious that Alan lied to him when he first confronted his son about whether he was involved with the AI attacks against Wanda. He demands to know why Alan was dead set on taking confidence designs from Wanda Mitchell. Alan is forced to admit that he invested in crypto when Isidore advised him not to. He goes on to say that the CEO of the crypto company he poured money into was arrested for fraud, causing Alan to lose half of his inheritance, which is why he set his eyes on confidence designs and to take it before Isidore and the family discovered that he lost that much money. This infuriates Isidore, but he's willing to cover it up. Good luck with that since your conversation was recorded the entire time. Wanda Mitchell finds it difficult to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday while dealing with the fallout from the AI attacks and with what Yvette claims Max did to her. She and Udell are surprised when Ben shows up to their house, offering them the recording of Alan admitting to Isidore that he was behind the AI attacks the whole time. Ben tells the couple that they can have the recording as long as they get Isidore to drop the charges against Jeremiah and to leave Max's name out of it. Before Ben leaves, he encourages Wanda to be honest with Udell. Wanda and her husband have no idea what Ben is implying. But we know that Wanda knew that Devante Torres had an affair with Elvira Russo and that she never told Udell. And this was most likely written in Elvira's diary, which we'll discuss a bit more later on. After the Russo Thanksgiving catastrophe, which I'll also discuss later on, Harley is kicked out and Alan is left with spending another Thanksgiving without his mother. Isidore is being a trash father, telling his son how he doesn't feel bad at all, especially after finding out what he's been up to this whole time. Once Alan assures his father that no one will ever find out, Wanda and Udell show up, telling Isidore and Alan how they found out. To prevent the Russos and the rest of the world from knowing about Alan's part in the AI attacks and losing half of his inheritance, Udell and Wanda get Isidore to drop the lawsuit against Jeremiah, and they ask for half of Alan and Isidore's shares to Russo Jewelers. Reluctantly, Isidore agrees, but when the Mitchells leave, Isidore tells Alan that he's sick by the sight of him after what just occurred. Ben Russo confronts Dr. Terry Burke about being in possession of his late Aunt Elvira's diary. He begins to wonder if she had anything to do with Elvira losing her life. Terry reveals how Ben's great-grandfather, Dante Russo, developed Alzheimer's and how he didn't want the disease to take his life. So he asks Terry to help him end his life, which she accepted to do, but informs Ben about how Isidore found out what she did and has been holding it over her head ever since. Because Elvira discovered what Terry did and that Isidore knew, she wrote it in her diary, and Isidore had Terry keep the diary hidden this whole time. Ben promises not to go to Finnegan about this as long as Terry doesn't tell Isidore that he discovered Elvira's diary. Ben seems to be struggling to build up the strength to open Elvira's diary, but Quinlan shows up, asking Ben to help her bail out Zeke and get Heidi to drop the charges against him. Ben is a bit weary of helping out, especially when Quinlan questioned Max's innocence. She understands how big of an ask this is, especially after their previous conversation. Quinlan understands that it's a bigger favor to ask, especially when she knows that Zeke is guilty. Her explanation is to figure out who Zeke is working for and expose the source. She goes on to explain how Zeke is the only family she has left, since her mother is in prison for getting involved in a hit and run with some boyfriend. Ben agrees to help Quinlan, and he's thrown off guard when Quinlan hugs him. The hug doesn't last long since Quinlan notices Elvira's diary, fills her in on how Terry had it the whole time, but Quinlan notices that Ben is having a hard time reading it on his own, offering to read the diary with him. At the Russo estate on Thanksgiving Day, Isidore asks Heidi if she's ready to expose her husband Gianni by telling the family that he brought Harley back to town to crash the scholarship event. With everyone waiting for Ben so that they can eat the Thanksgiving dinner, it's making everyone a bit impatient, especially Isidore, who low-key pressures Heidi to do what he demanded, or else he would reveal to the entire family that she's been committing adultery with Finnegan Burke. Heidi reveals to the Russos that Gianni asked Harley to crash the event at Theodosius' palace. This frustrates Gianni's family, makes Gianni frustrated with his wife Heidi, and even more frustrated when Isidore gets her to lie and tell everyone that Gianni never told her about his idea of creating the scholarship in Elvira's name. Bottom line, the Russo Thanksgiving becomes a catastrophe, and Ben shows up, making things worse by telling his mother that after reading Elvira's diary, he figured out that she and Finnegan had an affair. Heidi explains what she can, pleading with Ben not to tell Gianni. Ben agrees to, as long as she drops the charges against Zeke. Ben shows up to Quinlan's apartment, telling him that he confronted his mother about Finnegan and got her to drop the charges against Zeke. Once again, they hug, but this time Ben begins to compliment Quinlan. Quinlan compliments Ben. They stare into one another's eyes and end up kissing. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These, then treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyways.